So good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight on a beautiful Tuesday evening. And today is 9th of June, 2026. We are here to talk about the fire horse at the midpoint of 2026, because we have already go into the solar term Mong which is a Jiak Wu Man. So we know that this year is a Peng Wu, means that it's a fire horse year, and now is a wood horse month. Wood horse means that the fire is also um, at its intense peak, because wood create fire. So we have double horse, which is a fire in a fire period, which is period 9 now, and together Peng Wu, which is a fire horse year in 2026, and now in the wood horse month. So this should be the very peak of the fire period in period 9. So there will be a lot of transformation expected. I do not know whether you guys have also personally experienced some of the transformation at your job, in your work, or in your personal life, or things around you, that global trends started to shift very fast. If yes, you can give me a 3 in the chat box. Do y'all feel that things are moving even faster than before? Like, in 2020 we already have a transformation, the COVID-19 cases. Now it's even, yeah, thanks Jessie. I think yes, you can feel this year already started with a lot of geopolitical upheavals, waterways, the related to the transportation, related to water related issues, because this year the chart is lack of water. And I've read my 2026 our 2026 Astrology and Global Trends Forecast book, which was written last year. You will find that under the industry water, we already stated that there will be chances that disruption in flow of logistic and everything. Therefore, and now we are in the mid-year, and I think it's something that we will need to look at what the stars will review on the second half, and what is PC's studies on the global trends, the research on what the forecast will be on the second half of the year. Okay, yeah. So at the midpoint, tonight we will talk about the Chinese astrology part, the global trends part by PC, and also the period 9 preview. For some of you who are new, who do not know what exactly is a period 9, okay, what were the stars review? So is we will look back at our 2026 forecast through our yearbook, which was published end of last year, okay, on the forecast of 2026, and the scorecard against the real world events, okay, and also looking ahead as well on the second half of the year through the energy that we are having now, the energy shift, and also the global trends research, what to watch for. And number 3, we will zoom out into a bigger and not 20-year period 9 picture, and why the positioning now is a critical decision. Okay, so yeah. So let's look at, all the month forecast that we have done so far from January to May that has taken place itself, and also the book that we have written for to forecast the year of 2026. So what we have forecast is fire dominance, conflict tech acceleration, and AI breakthroughs. So we can see that um, this is what the global trends has already unfold. The AI regulatory debates, tech stock surge in the beginning of the year, like AI bubbles, and then multiple regional conflicts like Straits of Hormuz, especially in the Middle East. If you want to revisit those news headlines, you can do so in our YouTube channel or in PC's Rumble channel. Okay, every month we check against the headlines. So here I will not put in the headlines anymore. So
Right.
no water or hard to convert output to cash. I think liquidity tightening is a problem. I think most of the businesses are also suffering from cash flow problem. In fact, some of the business that do not transform might be also outdated, okay, and eventually they will be replaced, unfortunately, okay, especially those traditional type of businesses that has not, transformed themselves. So there will be, a widespread of people. I'm sure if you are working in the corporate world, you will feel that as well, that, busy, but no wealthy sentiment. Okay, even the stock market now is down. Is that how you feel now? Yeah, I'm busy because the chart of the 2026 chart, there's a lot of output. That means people will be busy, but the wealth is element is not there. So it's the absence of wealth.
I think the one of the key thing is that no doubt there's a tightening of liquidity in the market. And later, when we talk about the tech sector, you
ये हो
will
गया होना
understand in detail. Yeah. But
Okay,
basically, if you a lot of
Wait,
commentators
let
are
me
saying
just
that
mute the participants. Hold on for a while.
you mama made it right.
Oh, who is that? That is not mute. Let me mute.
Jesse.
Okay, hold on for a while.
okay, it's done.
Jesse.
Yeah, it's muted.
Muted already.
Yeah.
Okay, when Vincent is also not muted. I will need to mute him. How do I mute him? Okay.
So especially with regard to the SpaceX listing, there are both plus and minuses. Some commentators are stating that the SpaceX uh, is causing a lot of people to sell stocks which are profitable to join in the race to get the some shares before the listing. There are some who say that it is an event for liquidity to exit, okay, which means it's well pumped up. So when retail goes in, then they will actually dump into the market because most of the investors have been staying with SpaceX for I think almost a decade or so. And that's one manner from which they can profit from their venture at elevated price.
Okay. Yeah. So we also have forecasted on the weather. Every month we do that. So we have forecasted on extreme weather. I think we feel that as well. Suddenly it's very hot. Suddenly there's rainfall, and there are also recording of flooding in multiple regions. I think in India is one of them, like unusual forecast of the weather patterns confirmed. Okay, and also female leadership. We already know that this is part of period 9 as well. And then precious metal energy sectors that gain attention, especially on the gold and silver. We will not say that trend ups or down, but you can see that suddenly it goes up very high at the beginning of the year, and now it goes down. So it's a significant movement as predicted, because fire um will will sort of counter metal. So definitely metal will have a lot of changes. Okay. And then energy price, also there is a volatility continue, like oil prices suddenly has gone up. Okay. Yeah. And these are the 5 pillars that what we have forecasted in the book itself along the trajectory. Okay. Transformation, conflicts, technological acceleration, and also economic fragmentation, social polarization. This is done with our forecast book 2026, and also from month of January to May forecast together. I pump it into the AI, and then we check it against the global trends or the major headlines that's happening. And this is, what we get, the validity score of 84%. Okay, so this is the credibility that we are trying to demonstrate on our platform. So I've also done some diagnostic mapping on what we have predicted, including PC's forecast as well. Not only my one through astrology, his global trends research as well. So we managed to sort of, achieve more or less 90 over percent for technology and AI, because we really look into this very much. I think PC also done a lot of analysis on um AI sector, and also technology sector through the global trends research. Geopolitics, both of us has done that. Global economy, social, political, financial market, and also climate and natural disasters, which is a bit low, okay, for this one. So this is the whole presentation of what we have, done more or less. We On the average we have, about 84%, which is quite good. I think nobody can give you 100%. Even the best Chinese astrology or Chinese metaphysics also cannot give you that. Most At the most they can give you is the trend that, that is going on, which is quite accurate. Okay, so 8 definitive macro catalysts that have drive. I would like to recap on what are the 8 macro catalysts that have drove the first half of the year. So AI become dominant global investment theme. Okay, and then China also has accelerated. I think every day PC sends some message in the members channel on the breakthrough of China. As I think recently is Huawei on their chips as well. Okay, in semiconductor and AI self-sufficiency, I think China has developed a lot of AI models as well. Like DeepSeek is one of them that is very famous. There are also other models as well. In fact, in the AI race, they almost on par with the US. And then the third quite far behind is from India. Okay, so Iran conflict escalated, as we have seen, that ceasefire and then resume again. Okay, and then BRICS influence has also expanded, where the petro US dollars is being threatened. Okay, and Europe has entered the stagflationary. This is what PC has studied. US debts continue expanding every day by trillions. Okay, then immigration, protests, and polarization increase. Extreme weather and heat wave warnings intensify. This is the trend that we have already, forecasted, and this is what is also happening. I think y'all can feel that as well. And if you want more headlines related to this, you can always refer to our talk in our YouTube channel, where I have headlines that clips from around the world to prove the alignment of our forecast. Okay. In fact, we do that every month. So go back and check our forecast every month. And yeah, and this is what is happening. The accelerated, infrastructure with deepening West divides that define the primary access. For example, between China and US, there is a technological war. Okay, it's not only the Straits of Hormuz is on war, Iran with US, but also in the technology, we also have technological war as well. So we have, we forecasted that, as AI race accelerates, China, AI expansion is happening, semiconductor, competition and robotics growth as well. So this is, what is actually happening. And then the rising in geopolitics, rising of, military tensions. Iran conflict escalated. We can see that East-West rivalry, Ukraine problem still not resolved. Okay, people has already shifted their attention to the Straits of Hormuz, all the waterways, the Bab waterways, and all this in Middle East. All those narrow waterways is going to give you problems. So and I think most of it has already forgotten about Ukraine war as well. And then the BRICS sevens versus G7 divergence. Okay, and then BRICS expansion continue. The influence of BRICS expansion continue, and then weak diplomacy with US China rivalry remain to be the central scheme. And okay, so the economic stagnation and persistent inflations are reshaping all the traditional markets, havens. And you know that most of the businesses that if they don't transform, eventually I think they will face a lot of problem. In fact, a lot of businesses are also facing traditional businesses are also facing a lot of challenges now in period 9. Even those big companies, like those multinational companies also has already, let me check who has not muted hold on for a while. Um, PC can check for me who has not muted. Can you go to the panel and check if who has not muted? Can you mute them or not?
Hold on.
Okay. Yeah, since you're the co-host, you're able to do that. So we forecasted inflation sticky. I think now it's happening. Debt burdens rising. Okay, and also Europe stagnation. So this one I think it has already aligned to the trends or the current macroeconomic realities. So in the financial market, we talk about gold remain to be important. Okay, although the prices is not stable. I already predicted that the prices is not stable. Even this month also, I already talk about those trends, and stable coin also adoption has accelerated. Okay, so there are no, luckily, so far we have no major banking crisis yet, but it's pending for the second half of development. Okay, and in terms of social political, we have immigration protests. We have seen that, growing of polarization and public dissatisfaction. And then the baseline climate will, vulnerability of extreme weathers and heat wave warnings intensifying. Especially this month, you need to watch out. I already stated in my talk at the beginning of the year that this month the fire is very strong, and whoever has a old power bank at home, or those not use electrical appliances that use rechargeable battery, that lithium ion, you need to be careful. Do not store them. I think it's best that you dispose them as soon as possible. Okay. Yeah. So the critical mass that approaches ahead will be the October fire combination. This was written in my book. And then what will the second half holds for us? Potential regime changes, okay, after the geopolitical tension. And then we will have the full year climate disasters impact. And I think expected October will be sort of a combination and initial point for many items, global markets, financial markets, economic trends, geopolitical tensions. Okay. And at the same time, we also have, confirmed escalating risk of environment itself, okay, with conflicts, technological and economic fragmentation, and social polarization. Okay, so the score, this is how we have already done so far. From now, the first half of the year is 84%. Um, Unfortunately, we expected the projected year-end score will be slightly higher as things unfold. So let's go through the section 2. What do you mean by Peng Wu Ye?
Evelyn,
Yeah.
you need to position the microphone. One of the participants saying that the voice has gone soft.
Oh, okay. Maybe you can
Yeah.
also adjust the volume of your system as well. Okay. Yeah. So in section 2, at the same time, sometimes because your own system, the volume is not high enough as well. So yeah, I will try to position the microphone a bit nearer. Okay, so in section 2, the Peng, we will go to the section 2 of the talk now, which is about the Peng Wu year. Peng Wu, what do you mean by that? It's actually 60-year once a cycle. In Chinese astrology, we have stems and branch. There are 12 branches, 10 stems, but the yin and yang will take on 5 each. So that's why we have 60 jiazi or 60 cycle. It started with jia, 夹子 okay, the wood rat is number one until the last one is koi hai, the water pig. So all this you combine the stem, the 10 stems and the 6 branches for yang and yin. So you will get 60 cycles. So now we are in the fire horse cycles, and always is a repeat of 60 years cycle once. That means it will go back to jiazi again in 60 years, and it will go back to Peng Wu. So we shall revisit the Peng Wu year in the past as well. What exactly happened? So in 1906, is San Francisco earthquake, the Qing dynasty collapse, and the global financial panic. If you revisit back, you can always revisit back now. With also with AI. Okay. On what's happening. And not these all are thorough research through the help of AI. It's not that I use AI completely, but I have, recruit AI as my assistant to help me to do this research, okay, to come up with all these things. So in 1966, we also have Cultural Revolution in China, Vietnam War, and Beatles, global phenomenon. Who knows what Beatle is? You know what Beatle is? That means it could be from my time. I think that time I just born only. Okay, yeah, and civil rights, and then in after 60 years, now we are in 2026. So it's even faster now because we are really fire. This is fire plus metal. We are in the period 6 at that time. Okay, fire plus metal. It's not so strong, but this one is a fire period 9 plus the fire year. So that's why you can see the acceleration is even much more faster than what you have experienced in the last 120 years. Okay. So we have AI revolution, geopolitical realignment, and then period 9 acceleration. Okay, so we are already in the year 3 because the official period 9 starts in year 2024, but actually it already starts to transform since year 2023 with the conjunction of the planets between Saturn and Jupiter at the time where we have COVID-19. So this is where the fastest the fire burns at its peak. So in the Parts blueprint of 2026, which I have already done the forecast itself. What the chart review is that the year is actually Peng stems, young fire. So it's a sun radiating outward, visible and assertive. You can see that a lot of people wants to be visible. And also the earth branch is a horse, which also contains fire energy. So the whole pillar, we have, those who knows Chinese astrology will know what Peng Wu means. The heavenly stem is fire. The earthly branch is also fire. That means they are supported. And the chart was with 0 water, the Bazi chart itself. So you will see itself that the fire is dominant, is transforming everything around you. Wood is supporting the fire. Okay. It's been exhausted. You can see that the agriculture industries will have a problem. The metal has been stressed, means that you see the gold and the silver prices is going to be very volatile. And then the earth is moderate. Okay. It's also not very good for the earth industries. In fact, property market is also quite slow, and the water is absent. Okay. Yeah. So means that we will have a lot of the day master was earth in the this year's Li Chun chart. So water is earth, water to earth is wealth. This is not wealth. But in terms of metal, there are some output there. Okay, the output is there, but the discipline is needed to convert the activity into actual wealth. Like for everyone in it impact every one of us in this planet. Okay, right now the wealth is absent. So we have to continue to work. That means continue to produce the output, and then only can pull in the wealth element. That's what you mean. Also, it also, can also put this into the global trends now, where you can see there's a lot of output people trying to do a lot of things, but actually it's not easy to convert into wealth.
Just like Trump saying a lot of ceasefire, but then there's no ceasefire, lor.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. And at the same time, um, yeah, what the fire horse has been burning, as we says that by elements, we look at it, yeah, AI tech breakthroughs accelerate. There's a lot of AI, and tech breakthroughs in semiconductor. Geopolitical conflict escalates. These are all fire elements. Energy sector, volatility, okay, especially in petrol, oil and gas sector, okay. And then we also have spirituality. Spirituality is part of the fire elements, and visibility rising. And for wood, we have green ESG sectors facing resistance. Agriculture and food supplies is going to be stressed, especially um, okay, in the Straits of Hormuz itself, where you have the movement of the gas, oil and gas, and then the byproducts as well, phosphate. All these are also used as a fertilizer
Sulfur,
for
actually.
uh,
Sulfur.
sulfur is more for mineral refineries, right? Phosphate is
Uh,
more for agriculture
Actually,
um
it's because
fertilizer.
sulfur needs to be synthesized with phosphate to
Okay.
become fertilizer.
Oh, okay. So both are impacted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And also because sulfur is also needed for the refinery
Yes. Yes.
process of the
Yes.
gold and silver as well. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So you can see all the supply chain has been impacted just because of that waterway itself. And and because nowadays the world is in one whole connected supply chain. We are like one whole supply chain itself. If you trace back. Okay, so yeah, so the agriculture and the food supply definitely will be stressed. Creative industries under pressures. Okay, because creativity is also wood, and then traditional media like those paper type newspaper, magazine, and all these are declining. Okay, and then um, in metal, banking and finance is under pressure, although there's no big crisis yet. The currency and the precious metals are volatile. Manufacturing headwinds now started to transform and change. More people are looking into automated manufacturings and robotics type of manufacturing. Structure systems also change, because metal also represents some systems. Then water is that absence means that diplomacy failures, no consensus, liquidity, are tight in the globally. As I said, wealth, is hard to accumulate, and also there are no like wisdom. Water also represent wisdom in Chinese astrology. So spiritual emptiness is widespread. Okay. Yeah. So we also talk about Mother Earth Oracle in our 2026 yearbook. By the way, do you have the link for people to download a free chapter of that book or not? PC?
Okay. That is.
Yeah, you can put that. Those who are interested to get the book, you can also do so. Okay. Yeah. So in the year of the fire horse, I already said that spring and summer bring floods. So literally there are recording of floodings across Southeast Asia, Europe, and also US in spring. In 2026, extreme rainfalls, mudslides, ground instability, and then earthquake risk. Earthquake risk. Unfortunately, now we have already experienced that as in Indonesia, right? Earthquake. Yeah. Okay, so in the in literary in terms of weather and earth, but in metaphorical on the society, there is social media overwhelm. Don't you think that now we have no social media overwhelm? There's too many informations. We do not know, which one is true, which one is not. And when we do the global trend research, especially PCI has to go through many social medias, the KOL that he follows, in order to sieve out, in order to filter out what is, what reflects the actual happenings. Okay, sometimes even CNN might not report what exactly is happening. Okay, and then public emotion and anger because of inflations. Emotionally, people, you have too much fire for people. People also tends to be more impatient. When you drive in the road, also you can see a lot of people, driving very impatiently. Okay, then governance breakdowns is too much and too fast. The government is unable to control some of the things, and then the markets is flooded with noise, and also signal become unclear. Yeah. And this year we also have in the chapter 3 of the book, we also have, year hexagram. Means that is 天火同人 means is actually 乾卦 here metal, and this is fire. So it's fellowship with people. What it means is that fire rises to heaven. 乾卦 here, the tree, young line represents 乾. So it represents heaven also. So humanity, unity are striving to higher purposes. But the fellowship is not blind consensus. Unity is rooted on truth and principles. Okay, so yeah, fellowship, it means that we should have, collective endeavor, strategic unity. But however, it's been threatened. And then with the fire horse energy. Okay, so in the lower trigram, we can see illumination, passions, and truth seeking, and also action. Okay, so um, what it means here, in terms of the thematic outlook, for hexagram number 33. So in terms of social political, um, the hexagram can be like this. It talk about fellowship, but it can be, another end of, its fracture. Okay, so leadership, legitimacy, is tested. Transparent governments, in fact, gain support, and then there are grassroots coalitions, activists, and youth voices search globally. And coalition are building over confrontations. So the dialogue bridge also becomes divided. Like we have Russia, China, one group, and then US another group. So it's like East and West divided. Okay, then geopolitical trends is also multipolar diplomacy rises with BRICS, ASEAN, African Union, going gain clout. Okay, and collective security of global flashpoints in Taiwan, in Middle East, South China Sea as well. I think we have one incident in the South China Sea recently. Okay, where Indonesia also have some sign something related to the control of the routes, the sea routes in the Straits of Malacca. Then cross-border alliances for AI governance and cyber defenses. Then in economics and markets, we also see the same thing. Local currency, the joint infrastructure, the BRICS local currency trade settlements. There's a lot of things been settled in local currency, like yuan is used to buy Iran oil secretly for many years, and now it's already been exposed. Okay, and then G7 debt fragility contrast. Okay, and this one I think PC has already talked a lot about it, and the shadow side is of this hexagram is that when the fellowship fails, is tribalism and class divides. We can see that the global our geopolitics, the leaders have been divided into multiple factors. Alliances fatigue. That means there's no unity that we can see. And then opportunities, partnerships without shared values. That means people partner for the sake of partnering without sharing the same value. So it will collapse under stress. itself. And those who are in business, this is something that you will need to look into as well. So strategic advice for 2026 is that we need more so to build cross-cultural network trust. Okay, and then avoid those echo chambers. That means avoid the same thing being echo again, the repetitive of this one, then build correlative models successfully. Okay, so like those want to grow the company, maybe merger and acquisition that is done through very strategic kind of planning. Okay, and then track social sentiment signals where they forecast regulatory and market shifts. So yeah. So this one let's not burn apart. That us rise together like phoenix they rise together. So the key takeaway for 2026 is that the channel fire forges durable bonds. Okay, like metal being tempered in heat. So unchecked it will fractures the society. Then since sincere fellowship is needed. So it's tempered by truth and anchor in principles. So this is the key of navigating 2026. So that means, as I stated, there are shadow, this one, there are shadow side of fellowship that fails. So we must have sincere fellowship and act with persistent and discernment. Breakthroughs, we ourselves have to break through our own self as well to see clearly through the heat. Every one of us have to transform, has to learn new skills like AI and all these things in order to transform ourselves collectively. Okay? Yeah. So yeah, so we will go into the June and the second half of the preview here. So now we are at this is called, now we are in the solar term that call um mang zhong mong zhong grain in the ear in English. Okay, so yeah, so it's beginning of June 6th, which is the month of the um horse. Okay, in June 6th that officially started in Chinese calendar. For those who are new to Chinese metaphysics, actually the Chinese calendar, solar calendar, I'm not talking about the yin or the lunar calendar. The lunar calendar, the first and the 15th is meant for worshipping. Now we are talking about in Chinese astrology, in Chinese metaphysics, we use solar calendar terms. So in solar calendar terms, we have like the Vedas and all these things. So in the solar terms, and then there are 12 months, and each month also divided into 12 animal sign. So the animal sign does not govern only the year. That this is a horse year. So this month, June, is a horse month. December is always a red month. It begins from December. And then when we have February, Li Chun is the tiger month. Okay. So the Chinese time is always using the 12 animal sign as as a standard. Even days also is animal sign. And hour also is animal sign. 24 hours, actually there are 12 times, 12 period in Chinese time. 12个时辰 okay, they are all in Chinese sign also, like 50 actually is horse 丙午 is horse 50 is 11 to 1 o'clock. Okay, this is how clever Chinese are in terms of dividing all this. So we are in the the young horse year, the 丙午 year, so double fire. So we have peak intensity of the year. So what it means to you is peak emotional intensity where decisions feel urgent. Everything people will push you for decision. Everything is urgent. Okay, then breakthrough is possible. This is the best time for us to break through, even spirituality, or even in terms of spiritual, because fire means spiritual breakthrough as well. Okay, and fire creates sudden clarity. Suddenly, if you know how to make use of the fire energy, so it will create fire. That's why Chinese metaphysics become even stronger. Feng Shui, all this becomes stronger in period 9, because all these Chinese metaphysics practice are all fire. So it's accelerated with the fire 9 energy. So much so. That's why you can see that like people wanted to look into their own destiny, want to look into understanding themselves. This is part of spirituality. Okay, and if and feng shui of your house also will be very much accelerated as well. Okay, later on, you stay back. At the end of the dinner, I will give you some feng shui tips for you to navigate through this month especially. So rash move are costly, so we must, everyone is moving like, without thinking. Okay, because of the fire, so we ourselves have to have wisdom. The water is important to balance out the chart. That's why we have to have wisdom to avoid the move. So we have to plan and strategically. Okay, this is how you navigate the year. Okay, geopolitical, not that everyone rush, you also rush in. Okay, so geopolitical um conflict heighten. Okay, with risk window, then business those that are visible, they will search. Okay, and you will see that com- competitions also heats up. Personal, we will seek for spiritual seeking, intensifies because of this fire energy. Okay, and the roads ahead, the three pivotal months that I have already, sort of identified, through the energy of Chinese astrology and through the party chart of the solar terms itself. Number one is July in Ji Wei month. July will be now is in the goat month. Okay, the wood fire intensify actually is yin it's a yin wood. There's a mistake here. Okay, so agriculture, food resources will be in focus, and then we have the rooster month that it clashes the fire. Okay, because metal um rooster is the peak of autumn. Autumn is a metal season, so the fire it will clash the this one the metal, and then also um in the month of the dog month itself, it will complete the three harmony combination of the chart. So it will be like energetically charged the month of 2026 for major events likely to happen. There will be some major events. So what to watch for in the second half of 2026 will be geopolitics. Escalation risk peaks around October. It could be, Taiwan Straits, Middle East, or resources corridors are the key flashpoints. Alliances will be under pressure. Okay, this is what is predicted in the trend of second half. Leadership, female leadership will rise even more prominently in public life. Okay, in politics, cooperation, militaries. Okay, and also spirituality, global search in meaning seeking. Okay, wellness, alternative health, spiritual inquiry, and education and consulting sectors will grow strong as well. Then AI and tech. So AI governance will be a flashpoint because there's so many AIs that's going on that without much governance. So right now, I think it's time that there will be a lot of companies will start to put in the governance process as well. Okay, then new AI capability releases that accelerate timelines. Okay, and then the markets itself, precious metal continue to be in focus. Currency volatility, defensive sectors will outperform. So October will likely to bring a significant market event. Then flood risk extends into summer. Okay, now we are in summer month. And then fire related disasters are likely to happen, like now the volcanic eruptions, I think, in Philippines, and also the food supplies remain a watch point. Okay, right now we will zoom into a bigger picture. We are only in the third year of the 20-year cycle of the period 9. So we are here 2024 to 2026. And this is the mid period peak on 2034, and it will end in 2043. Okay, so is actually most of us will not be able to see another period 9. It will comes in another, I think, 180 years later, 20 years each cycle, 9 periods. So it will be, um, another 180 years later. So it's a once a lifetime macro shift. I'm also very lucky to be able to live until today to see this transformation. Okay. And also we are in the early acceleration. Okay. And also there are still 17 years of decision now compound over nearly 2 decades itself. And there also will be a great shift. As we know that in period 8, actually 2004 to 2023 is a Earth era. That's why that time real estate and property boom. Those who knows how to take opportunity at that time and invest in property, they will become like 2 to 3 times worth than what was invested in the past. In fact, period 7 is the best time to invest in property. Okay, so there are property boom that has recorded. Okay, because of the Earth era, and then we have because that is a kengua in the Earth era. So we have young billionaires like Gates, um um, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, they were young at the time, Michael Dell, okay? And banking finance dominated at that time. We have banking shares also surged at the time. That also, a lot of things that going on in the banking and finance sector. So it was a stable employment era. Okay, and people like employed for life. There are enough like physical assets, wealth creations. Okay, so it's about stability and cash. There's a lot of cash, ready cash available in the period 8. But now we have transformed into the period 9. So it's more on tech, AI, new energy booming. So we have like female leaders rise like Mary Barra, Lisa Su, and all this. Lisa Su is the CEO of AMD. So consulting, education, spirituality flourish. Is fast moving and unstable, like flickering fire. Even employment is also unstable. So visibility and influence is very important. So we have a lot of influencer now, right? KOL in the social media. These all are related to fire. So Li Guaf is a phoenix reinvention of breakthrough itself. Okay. And another thing about this fire also, if you look at it, I think those who know Chinese word, this is ping, means sickness. Okay. You look at it, you look at it, here is the word is like no a body itself, and then inside this is a peng, and this here is a peng wu ye. So is this and this becomes fire. So in fact we have to really really take care of our health. Actually this is a video. This idea I taken it from Dr. Yao, my friend, who is also a medical doctor. She actually heads the neurology departments in Penang General Hospital. So in her in her channel, I find that this is quite interesting. I never really look at it. So I saw this ping here. Okay, so that's why paying inside here. So that's why there will be people will fall sick more easily. You go and look at the hospital now. There's a lot of people. So that's why we have to take care of our health. You see double paying some more. That means 发炎 Okay, so we have to be careful Yeah, so means double fire here. So you have to be careful on this So the in terms of the Li Gua here, the hexagram reading for this big picture of period 9 is that externally is actually solid. You can see 2 lines here, but internally is actually empty. Okay, so that's why people feel the emptiness. Okay, sometimes you might sometimes that's why you have a lot of scammer also, because scam sometimes they promise a lot of things for you but inside is actually hollow or empty. Okay, so and then you have demand yourself so this hexagram means that you have to attach yourself what truly gives you clarity and purposes, just not and just not by merely looking bright. Some people they like to put in their social media, they have this lifestyle, but it's actually empty. Okay, so strategic clarity always wins. So the key message for June decisions is that act with persistence, discernment, and not impulse. Especially this is a very critical month. So the breakthroughs will come if you have very clear goal. You will see yourself clearly what is your purpose, and you will be able to navigate those heat and noise at the same time. Okay, yeah. And at the same time that, the Lee trigram also, the Li Gua here, actually, if you look at it from, a big picture of those um, character, the oracle bone script, it represents a bird breaking through from a net. So you have to, break through yourself from the mental nets itself and embrace new items, new industries, to reinvent. In fact, in corporations, in your personal self, okay, so they will benefit the most from the period 9 win. Okay, so if you don't reinvent yourself, the world is shifting and you're trapped with fear, then you will not be able to break through and you will still trapped in the net. So those who don't know that they are trapped is also very dangerous. If you are still playing the period 8 game of strategies of chasing real estate, safe jobs, traditional path in a fire era, is going to be will be very risky. Okay. So and yeah, the period 9 itself means that this is a oracle warning that you have to design to help yourself move from the net and soar to the sky. Okay. Yeah, like phoenix, they reborn, and the fire forged them, they reborn. That is the message from the oracle, from the heaven. So the critical questions that we need to ask ourselves is that, in the next 17 years, where will you establish yourself? Okay, which city, regions, and communities are favored in period 9? Okay, I've stated in my period 9 book. Maybe PC, you can put in a sample chapter also on our unlock your wealth potentials. We talk about, which region, which city is more favorable. Okay, and it's south facing, fire, aligned geographies. And also who will you align yourself with, which industries are rising, okay, and which are declining. So how will you position yourself personally? Okay, so period 9 will create the macro winner, and also together with your party luck cycle, your own destiny chart, that you have to, determines that whether, how you can write on it, whether you're aligned to period 9 or not. What is your chart, key timing, your move correctly, because that will give you a clue itself. So this is the 3 foundation questions that we need to ask ourselves. Okay. And also, in the midpoint, the second half, where the fire horse year ignites. So we have shown also, like, in 1906, the first half is actually San Francisco earthquake, um, is diversity but localized. But in the second half is even worse. There are financial panics in 1906. Even Wells Fargo bank has restructured also, and then um, the global, the global confidence has shaken. Okay, the seeds of 1906, um, you know, panic has planted. Then in 1966, we have cultural revolution in China. Okay, and the initial shock. And then we have, um, red guards unleash, mass mobilization, Vietnam War escalates, the protests. Okay, the war order has also changed in 1966. Then in 2006, we have, forecast hits confirmed, like fire, conflict, AI, floods, and volatility. Okay, so we will need to look at, what the October month will complete the fire combination. So the window is open. Okay, so we are standing exactly in the midpoint. The question is not whether the second half of the year, whether will bring the transformation. It definitely will bring the transformation, but are you ready? That is the next question that you need to ask. Okay, so I think we will need to go to PC section.
Yeah,
Okay,
Evelyn,
over to you.
maybe you can put the download free chapter link because apparently my link no longer works for
Okay,
the unlock
yeah,
your wealth potential.
okay. So let me stop share. You go ahead and do your this one. Let me
Okay.
put in the free chapter download.
Okay, so um, over here we'll talk about the business climate on the economy. Okay, so the global economy faces tough challenges due to the following: disruption in supply chains due to tariffs, sanctions, and war; nationalistic behavior of countries that jeopardizes global trade and the flow of commodities and resources. And right now, Indonesia has actually uh, prevent the export of critical minerals to the global market because they want to encourage their own industrialization. And this will, in fact, would actually result in more pressure on the global supply chain. And this creates inflationary pressure across the global economy and affects consumption, the primary driver of global economic growth. So when inflation seeps in, the first thing that most people would do is prioritize their consumption. And even if we look at, China, even though China's GDP has been growing steadily, but recent months has shown that consumption has actually gone down. Retail sales have actually gone down, mainly because more people are putting their money into savings because of the uncertainties. So, especially in the US, the consumer sentiment has reached record low. And this will, in fact, affect consumption moving forward. Major economies are experiencing stagflation, where we have higher inflation, higher unemployment, and lower growth. This is very true where Europe is concerned. Okay, Europe is seeing resurgence in inflation because Europe is facing an energy crisis. And because of that energy crisis is pushing the inflation much higher, and because of the cost of energy is rising, there is a lot of businesses that have been forced to close down. And even the big companies like Volkswagen, and recently another company, if I'm not wrong, is Bosch, that actually have a lot of layoffs because when the cost of energy is very high, it doesn't make sense, okay, to maintain that kind of production when consumption is also being impacted. And all this would result in lower growth. And you can see that the Europe economy, the GDP has been stagnating, okay? Seldom will it be much higher than 2%. It's always around 1.5 or below, and sometimes into negative territory. And the US would likely go into this cycle as well, because US has seen a resurgence in inflation, and the GDP, if you look at it, is now back to 1.6% in one. Q4 was, if I'm not wrong, Q4 was actually 4%, and right now it's at 1.6%. And in China, even the government is projecting that the GDP would grow around 4.5 to 5% versus the last year's target of 5%. So overall, governments are anticipating a slowdown in economy. So the situation will worsen going forward, leading to some economies facing imminent collapse. And that would be those that are very weak countries that doesn't have their own resources, have rising inflation, and deteriorating currency. So this is very true, where India is concerned. Okay, India is seeing that the rupee has fallen to record low, and its economy, although show that it's growing at very high level, 7 to 8%, but the distribution of wealth is only among the top few percent. Okay, the few families actually own about more than 70% of the Indian economy, but most of the people they won't feel the economic benefit. And that is why with the falling currency, inflation will be pushed much higher. Okay, India doesn't have its own source of energy and it has to import at very high prices. And the same would go for Japan. Okay, Japan also doesn't have its own energy resources. It has to import. And right now, the price of oil is being manipulated by the US continuing shorting the oil futures market, while other countries are consuming their own oil reserves. And Indonesia also see the rupiah falling to record low, and so is the Philippines peso. So do not be surprised if we can experience another Asian financial crisis. And the Korean won, although the Korean stock market has gone up, but the Korean won actually has fallen to its lowest level since 2009 during the global financial crisis. And even though the Japanese stock market keeps on going higher, but the yen against the US dollar has also breached above 160 yen per dollar. So when inflation starts to reassert itself, it is not surprising that stock market would actually tend to go up. But at the end of it, the value of the currency would dictate how the people would be able to consume. And if let's say the consumption is being challenged, then the economy would eventually fall off from its peak. So this is something that Asia right now is seeing rapid deterioration in terms of currency value. And the other thing is we are not in just one region, okay? If you look at the bond yields of the 10-year bond yields of the major economies, all of them are reaching multi-decades high in terms of the 10-year bond yields. And that goes to show that investors have no confidence in governments being able to fund their, keep the funding going, and that they are demanding higher yields in return for lending the government money. Okay, we see the same thing in the US and Europe. Now, the only country that is seeing a fall in the 10-year yield is actually China. Okay, that goes to show that investors right now have more confidence in the Chinese economy than in the economies of the France, Germany, Japan, US, and Great Britain. Okay, so that because of all these risks, we must be prudent and beware of this risk beforehand. So the world faces two critical crises: an energy crisis born out of the war in Iran, and a food crisis caused by a global shortage of fertilizers. I think Evelyn just now mentioned about fertilizers is going, there's a shortage of fertilizer, and it's very true. But we haven't felt the true global shortage of food yet because the harvesting month, okay, because planting started in March and April. Over the next few months after the second half, where the harvesting starts, then we can see that the global production of agricultural crop will actually fall. Okay, and if let's say that happens, then the world, some poor countries will face famine. It is very unfortunate that on top of that, we have the super El Nino, which will bring forest fires, drought, and untold crop damage. Now, this will add to the food crisis projected in the second half of 2026. A food crisis could push many poor countries into destitution, which means they have famine. Okay, and I suspect that certain regions in India, which have already seen soaring temperature to up to 45 to 50 degrees Celsius, they will be very hard hit. And of course, other countries that are in the African belt that will actually feel the impact of the super El Nino. So what unfolds next could be a humanitarian crisis. So these are the things that are likely to happen in the second half. Okay, we have energy crisis that will actually snowball. All this while, energy is being kept down because the US government continue to short the oil futures market. And that is the reason why its strategic petroleum reserve has been falling down drastically, because once they short, people buy, people want delivery, okay, then they have to fulfill that delivery. So in terms of business climate in finance, central banks are in a bind due to overwhelming debt in the system. Total global debt is at 353 trillion, or 305% of global GDP. That means that governments will never be able to repay their debt in full, because they will just keep on refinancing it. But what happens right now is that the borrowing costs have actually escalated. That means that every debt that is being refinanced will be refinanced at a much higher cost compared to past few years. So government bond yields are spiking due to the loss of confidence in governments to manage their public debt. This leads to high borrowing costs for governments to refinance their debt or seek funding to arrest the decline in their economies, which means if the decline really happens, the governments would be in a very difficult situation. And what likely would be their way out, okay, would be more money printing, because that's what governments always do. So the only way out of this predicament is to raise interest rates and cut spending, but this could sink the economy into a recession. At the current state of the stock market, any major rate hikes would tank the market as investors run for the exit. Trillions could be lost. So we are now entering a situation whereby government financing becomes a burden, costs are escalating, and debt is escalating upwards. And the only way out, okay, assuming that the economy goes into turmoil because of higher inflation, governments would just have to print a lot of money, do a massive QE, buy back all the bonds to bring down the yields. Okay, but this would create even higher inflation. So there's nothing that they can do, okay, that will restore back the confidence of investors in the bond market. So that is why central banks will lose the war against inflation, because they cannot stomach the losses. So for example, Japan, inflation has been rising, the bond yields have been rising, but you see the BOJ not doing much, because all they talk about is, a lot of narrative. Do not be so confident that the BOJ would not take action. Okay, they come up with this kind of narrative. The BOJ is watching the forex market, but nothing gets done. Okay, so every time they come up with a narrative, the yen appreciate a bit, but then it starts to fall again because nothing concrete is done. Central banks are very, very afraid of the outcome of the current economic situation. So if you look at it, with government bonds deep underwater, the only asset that still holds its own in central bank's balance sheet is gold. Now, for those who are unaware, central banks hold monetary reserves, whether in US dollar or euro, in terms of the euro or Japanese yen, but they just don't keep the cash. A lot of all these monetary assets are being invested in government bonds. Okay, for example, let's say Malaysia holds the US dollar in US Treasury. But if you look at it, the ringgit has appreciated against the US dollar. So right now, the Treasury bond that they used to buy, okay, is worth less in terms of ringgit. Previously, they bought, it cost more. Not only that, the yen, the yield has gone up, which means the value of the bond in US dollar terms have also actually gone down. So it becomes a double whammy. Monetary value in US dollar falls, the value of the bond falls. So that's why central banks right now are in a difficult situation. Okay. And this chart shows that central banks are increasingly bullish on gold versus the US dollar, okay, where gold, for the first time in many decades, have exceeded US dollar reserves. Okay. So why central banks are going for gold? Because gold is the only pristine asset that doesn't have any liability. Okay, it is free of liabilities. And if the value of currency falls, the value of gold would actually accelerate. Okay, and this indicates that central banks are skeptical of the US dollar maintaining its global hegemony, thus the need to diversify to the only risk-free asset, which is gold. So recently, there's been a lot of talk that the only way that the central banks can redeem their balance sheet back into a better state would be a gold revaluation. Okay, it allows central banks to wipe off trillions in debt, and this could be the most important event in the future. And this is not something that comes out from my own thinking, but there are a lot of analysts, especially in the financial sector, that has been starting to ask questions whether a gold revaluation will actually help save the central bank's balance sheets. And even central banks governors are also putting opinion pieces in their respective countries' newspapers. For example, the Dutch central bank governor, the German Bundesbank have written about possibility of revaluing gold. So these are the kind of trial balloons that they float to test the market reaction. It won't happen anytime soon, but one thing that is very interesting is that many hedge funds who are long in the futures for the December contract are positioning themselves at the price of gold from $15,000 per ounce to $20,000 per ounce. Okay, and the number of contracts in the December month in that region has actually gone up quite a lot. So is it indication that some have insider information? I do not know, but there is this speculative movement right now that is positioning gold at 5-digit at the end of the year. So it could be purely speculation, or it could be some imminent measure being taken to arrest the global debt because of the unsustainability of the debt. And you are well aware of the US current debt, which is at 39.2 trillion. Now, with the 30-year interest rate right now at 5%, that is equivalent, okay, to almost 2 trillion in terms of annual debt, annual interest paid. The US will never be able to reduce its debt because it cannot stop spending due to its hegemonic nature. So at 2 trillion interest rate based on 4 trillion tax revenue, that is like 50% of the tax revenue goes towards paying the interest on current debt. And the US will continue to borrow more, okay, because it haven't counted the other unfunded liabilities like social security and Medicaid. If we count those, then the US government debt to GDP level would be several times much higher. So currently, there's a severe mispricing of risk in the market, okay, especially in the US. The private credit crisis and commercial real estate crisis are ongoing. Now, for those who are unaware what private credit is, these are listed companies that provide the funding, okay, in a private manner that is issued to borrowers who wants to have a immediate credit line in AI infrastructure built out. So what happened is that these private credit companies provide the credit line, but the interest rate is extremely high, normally around 8 to 10%. And recently, a lot of all these private credit companies, some are subsidiaries of giants like BlackRock, and then you have Blue Owl, to name a few, Apollo. They gated the redemption because investors suddenly realized that, hey, you know, the economy, global economy situation doesn't look good because of the Iran war. They want to redeem their funds at, you know, so that they get paid in full. 15% requested for redemption, but they only redemption. That means that they cannot get their money out. And meanwhile, you know, Blue Owl has seen its share price drop quite drastically. And a lot of these AI build-outs right now are posing a challenge because one thing the US, even though it has a lot of money to build out the AI infrastructure, but it has not enough energy. Okay, it doesn't have the energy grid to sustain. So a lot of the AI projects and such have been, about 30% have been delayed or canceled. And when these funds are loaned to those companies that expand the AI infrastructure, without the infrastructure in operation, they got no money to pay. So that means these private credit companies are facing a crisis. Okay, and because people understand that, people want to redeem, they don't allow that. So this private credit crisis has a total exposure about $3 trillion. And we all know that the commercial real estate crisis is already ongoing in US because of the rise in interest rate, where previous commercial real estate borrow at near zero, borrow at the range bound of 0 to 1% during the Fed time, more than 10 years ago. Right now, they have to refinance, but refinance at 5 to 6%. And suddenly, because of AI, there's a lot of work from home. They no longer demand that kind of office space. So vacancy accelerated to more than 20% in many commercial offices. And because of that, a lot of them are in deep underwater and real estates are being sold. Some are sold at $1 to people who are interested. Some are sold at 90%, 80 to 90% discounted from the previous purchase price. So this is ongoing. And when banks' balance sheet, where the asset portfolio is in real estate loans, imagine the value of the real estate right now has been obliterated by 80 to 90%. That will be a challenge for the banks. So the other thing is that credit card delinquencies are the highest since 2011. Auto loan delinquencies are the highest on record, and student loan delinquencies are back above 10%. That means even the household are finding it difficult to continue to sustain their livelihood by relying on debt. Foreclosure of homes rose 25% year on year in Q1 2026, and sellers outnumber buyers by a factor of 1.4 to 1. That means there are 14 sellers to 10 buyers. While the US stock market is at record high, consumer sentiment is at record low. What does this show? It shows that the wealth that is originated from the stock market is not distributed to the people that need it most. You remember Evelyn said that there's a disproportionate in terms of wealth. The lower people work as hard, but then the wealth is not coming in. So this is a situation whereby the top people who invest got the money, but the majority of the consumer that has no money to go into the stock market because of their rising credit commitments, they are unable to get the wealth effect. So another thing is that the Shiller PE ratio is at its highest since the dot-com bubble. Buffett's market cap to GDP is flashing rate at 230.7%. In fact, over the last few days, it has risen to 238%. So the other thing is that rising bond yields could unravel the balance sheets of financial institutions. The yen is extremely vulnerable and could unravel the yen carry trade should the BOJ hike interest rates. The yen carry trade is worth trillions of US dollars. However, BOJ will be hawkish but reluctant to face the consequences because, like I say, they talk only but no action, NATO. So the Fed will likely hike interest rate if inflation remains persistent, but will stop short of expectations due to massive government debt. Inflation will remain stubbornly entrenched in the US economy, so we can expect QE and YCC from the Fed and US Treasury. YCC means yield curve control. So very interestingly, for those who actually, the members will actually get updated weekly report from me, where I will actually share the reports from the US Treasury. And the US Treasury right now is acting like the Fed. Because last time the Fed, they have QE, buying back the bonds. Right now, the US Treasury is buying back their own debt. Now, you imagine that the US Treasury is issuing debt to buy back its own debt. You know, that is very, that is like you're doing something for the sake of doing something, okay? Because there's no way that they can bring the yields down except by spending more money to buy back the debt to force the yield down so that it lowers the borrowing cost. But the more that they do it, the higher the debt will roll and the more investors will be disgruntled by this kind of experiment. And therefore, they will require even a much higher yield for them to continue to invest in US Treasuries. So ECB will hike interest rate, but will also stop short of expectations. Inflation will remain entrenched, and at the Fed, it will resort to QE and YCC. Because none of them can pay back the debt in full. And all the while, it has been central banks like the Fed, BOJ, ECB, you know, they have been driving the low interest rate to get themselves out of every economic problem. So PBOC does not face the same issues as Chinese bond yields remain extremely low versus peers. It's only about 1%. Okay, a financial Armageddon is on the cards unless central banks reboot the entire financial system. Now, just now you can hear that Evelyn did mention that there could be a financial reorganization. Some people call it a financial reset. How it is, we don't know. Okay. So in terms of geopolitics, many political upheavals are expected, and this could change the dynamics of geopolitical maneuvering in certain regions. US midterm elections will be the focal point in second half of 2026. The Republicans could lose both the House and Senate. Should it happen, then Trump would likely be impeached. The Iran war will likely last until the US capitulates or withdraw from the Middle East. The US is expected to start new wars in Latin America to seize control of the region and mark it as its sphere of influence. Latin America will be thrown into chaos. Tension between EU and Russia will escalate and some skirmishes could happen. Tension between China, Japan, and Philippines will likely escalate as the US seeks partners to contain China while it focuses on Latin America. Trade tension will remain, especially EU-China and US-China. BRICS increasingly plays an important role in facilitating trade. More countries seek de-dollarization, which means trading among themselves in local currencies. Now, sometimes you can see people coming up with charts stating that, no, it's not true. The SWIFT trade currencies in use show that US dollar is dominant. Okay, China just account for a few percentages. So they like to use the SWIFT chart. But for countries that seek de-dollarization, it has very little to do with the SWIFT chart. Okay, the Chinese have their own trade settlement system that is done through the cross-border international payment system, or CIPS chips. Russia has their own cross-border border trade settlement platform. Iran also has their own. India also have their own. So all these countries, they are trading among themselves using external platforms that are not related to SWIFT. So that can be very misleading if somehow you find that, hey, how come China say it has, China is the world's largest trading partner among all the countries. Why is it that it's still a few percentage in terms of renminbi being used internationally? So a lot of it is being done through a different platform. So new waves of nationalism could hamper business entities, and protectionism could hamper growth. So these are something that will be a challenge for those people in the business communities, because they have previously, they just have to deal with the opposition, with their trade partners. But right now you have to throw in sanctions, government control, government trade rules, so many things to actually, overcome. It becomes, the business suddenly is filled with a lot of landmines. And that is why all these are being used to impede trade and will actually hamper growth. Many countries will experience internal turmoil resulting in the change of governments. The business climate becomes increasingly challenging. However, ASEAN should see stability amid the expected global turmoil in a way that it also depends on the spillover effect. So if, let's say, internally, the primary ASEAN partners like Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore remains stable together with Vietnam, then there could be some stability. But we know that the Philippines is very vulnerable. And right now, Indonesia, which is one of the largest economy among the ASEAN countries, could also see some problems because of its fast depreciating rupiah. Then the ASEAN stability could be challenged. So a lot of it would depend on how the people would want to stand in and try to change the government policy. Okay, and that means that Indonesia could see a resurgence of people that would wants to demand the government to make changes. Okay, so ASEAN, if let's say the core partners remain stable, then they won't be much badly affected by the global turmoil, especially surrounding India, Japan, Korea, Indonesia, and what's happened in Europe and in the US. I wouldn't say that ASEAN would not have similar repercussion, because ASEAN is still a trading partner to the entire world. And whoever sneezes substantially will also affect ASEAN. But I'm looking more in terms of political stability, as well as some government fiscal stimulus to actually help to maintain the economy trajectory. So in terms of investment climate in the commodity sector, the other time the world experienced a similar event was during the 1971 to 1980 period, which saw the OPEC crisis and the Iran-Iraq war. During that specific period, the commodity sector outperformed the major indices. This time is much worse. The blockade of Strait of Hormuz at 20% of global oil shipments. We are also sitting on massive government debt, which can never be repaid. Now, for those who are unaware, the OPEC crisis only affects 4% of global oil supply. But right now, Strait of Hormuz is 20%. And if, let's say, Iran has mentioned that they will control the Red Sea by controlling the Bab el-Mandab Strait, that itself would contribute another 12% of global oil supply, altogether 32%. So oil price will remain elevated. Energy demand will push energy-related commodities to outperform. So right now, a lot of the oil price is being managed by a lot of countries consuming their own reserves. And many of these reserves, according to executives from Exxon and Chevron, will actually start to show cracks by middle of this month. So if they start to ramp up their import, then the price of oil will actually go up. So energy-related commodities that will outperform would be something like coal, because coal is still the cheapest form of energy. As energy is key to unlocking mineral resources, the disruption in supply will result in higher prices needed to mine the minerals. So sometimes when, let's say in Chinese astrology, we can say that there's disruption, there'll be less mineral activities, metal activities, yes. But it may also doesn't mean that lack of mineral activity, metal activities would result in lower metal prices. It can also mean that there is insufficient supply and push the price of minerals much higher. So right now, why is, there's actually a total reversal. Normally when there's war, gold price will actually goes up. But right now, why does gold price come down? Because a lot of countries that hold gold as reserves suddenly are selling gold to secure their resources, okay, especially oil. Because oil price starts to move up, they sell gold so that they can actually lock in the price of oil before it goes up any further. So that becomes a sell the gold for oil trade. Similarly, a number of those countries in the Gulf, they have destruction of their infrastructure. But if their oil infrastructure is being disrupted, where can they get the money through oil exports? That is by selling gold to get the money to repair the damages. So that it creates another sell the gold event. But ultimately, central banks are still the ones that are buying lots more. In fact, China has been one of the biggest buyers of gold ever since the price comes down. So that goes to show that everyone is panicking for some reason. And the reason may not necessarily be due to that gold has lost its hedge as a stabilizer, okay, against global economic and geopolitical turmoil. It's just that priorities have shifted. The global shortage of fertilizers and El Nino effect will push the price of agriculture-based commodities higher. The resultant inflationary period is the outperformance of gold and silver as they did during 1971 to 1980 era. So for those who are unaware, during the stagflationary period from 1971 to 1980, gold actually went up more than 20 times. Okay, from around $42, it went all the way up to about 850 or $60 per ounce. So in terms of industrial sector, rising raw materials will impact the industrial sector as the cost of production rises. For those who are actually in the manufacturing sector, you will know how you will already have felt the pain. Okay, inflationary pressure will force households to consume less. Ultimately, layoffs are unavoidable. Certain industries will shine, for example, those related to alternative and renewable energy, those involved in the electrification of the infrastructure, batteries, NEVs, and UAVs, those involved in high-tech manufacturing, robotics, humanoids, and space economy, those related to national defense. In terms of financial sector, the sector should be avoided due to the following factors: private credit crisis, CRE crisis, and potential housing crisis. Rising delinquencies in household credit, many financial institutions face massive losses from their bond investments. Poor real estate sentiment could drag on earnings. These factors are prevalent among US, Canadian, European, Japanese, Korean, and Australian banks. Banks in Malaysia, Singapore, and China are more stable, although Chinese bank could face earning repression because China would use the state-owned enterprise in the banks, okay, to help stimulate the economy. So by asking them to lower the borrowing, to lower the loan rate, okay, and this could actually affect their earnings. Due to a potential correction confronting major stock markets, brokerages could face massive systemic and capital risk owing to heavy retail bets on leveraged ETFs. So because of the run-up right now in the Korean stock market and in the memory chips, you'll be surprised that there are funds that offer 3 times leverage. So which means if the stock dropped 10%, the fund would lose 30%. If they continuously lose 30% over 3 to 4 days, then that fund would be completely wiped out. Okay, so because there are so many leverage bets right now, and at the moment where the margin debt, which means you use your positions in the stock market to request more borrowing to invest in the stock market, that's called margin debt, has also gone into record highs in multiple stock exchanges around the world. Real estate sector, this sector should be avoided. The US is embroiled in a CRE crisis while home sellers outnumber buyers by 1 to 4 to 1, as more sellers hope to cash in on their home equity or are forced to sell due to mounting debt. China real estate market remains in the doldrums. Avoid property and construction companies, cement, steel, and building materials companies. Medical and health sector, an aging population would provide support for the healthcare sector. The center of R&D will gravitate towards China due to its inherent strength in STEM education. And in fact, China recently have published several papers stating that it found better cures for lung cancer, and I think for other types of cancers as well, and other diseases such as type 2 diabetes. China and India will see an increase in the number of middle-class population by hundreds of millions by 2030, thus pushing the demand for healthcare services to a staggering level. China is also in the process of opening up its healthcare to foreign participation. Medical equipment manufacturers, biotech and pharmaceutical companies, and healthcare service providers will benefit as a result. Inevitably, insurance companies will benefit as well. However, some may be caught in the stock market fallout due to their hunger for chasing yields despite the inherent risk. Western insurance companies are more susceptible to this. And for those who are unaware, a few of China's top insurance companies have been guided by the government to actually allocate up to 5% of their assets into gold. A blow-up in the pension funds could leave many without means for proper healthcare. Now, what is happening in South Korea is very staggering. The elderly people are withdrawing their pension and canceling their insurance to get the money to go into the stock market, to borrow margin debt, to go back into the stock market. So can you imagine if the stock Korean market suddenly collapsed? A lot of elderly would be without pension and without healthcare. Retail and F&B sector, the sector will see a divergence from retail. Consumer goods will shift to the affordable versus luxurious. Luxury goods market will be severely hit, thus avoid the latter at all costs. Online purchases will continue to dominate. In China, homegrown brands will be the more affordable option for many consumers. The expected high food costs in the coming months will hit the fine dining market. Competition will be keen, with the fine dining market offering discounts to compete with the mass market. Companies with massive brand awareness and outlet distribution will gain the foot traffic. China will be the focal point as government has targeted sports and catering as the main drivers for the service industry growth. Now, AI, chips, and data centers. This sector has entered into bubble territory. Part of the massive rally has been driven by round tripping. Michael Burry has written extensively on the subject. So what does it mean, round tripping? This chart shows you all. Okay, NVIDIA put money into OpenAI, then OpenAI used the money to buy back NVIDIA chips. It's as simple as that. Okay, so NVIDIA started, if I'm not wrong, they started CoreWeave, give the money to start CoreWeave, then CoreWeave used the money to buy NVIDIA chips. So that is what Michael Burry means by round tripping. Everyone is round tripping each other. Okay, I start the data center, the chip company start the data center, give money to the to the data center use the money to buy back its chip, and then they record it as revenue. Okay, invariably the bubble will pop, especially right now because of the lack of energy and grid power in the US. 30% of data centers have been suspended or cancelled. Opportunities prevail besides chips, such as those from the software and solution sides. So therefore, instead of just hyping on the semiconductor, I think there's opportunities to be those from the software and solutions provided to the data centers. Need to discern rationally. China will eventually decouple from the US in the tech sphere. Some Chinese tech companies have outperformed the broader Chinese indices. By 2030, China could reach self-sustainability. So while the US say they have those 10 or 20 baggers there, just for your information, a Chinese AI chip company, Cambricon, used to be around 90 renminbi per share. It is now around 1,500 to 1,600, okay? And a number of those AI companies, when they come up with IPO, they were just about 100 plus. Right now, they are almost 1,000. So China also have their own national champion. Okay, it's just that because we are more focused on the US market, okay, we are less discerning on what happens in the Chinese market. So Evelyn, back to you.
Yeah, okay. So let me share. You stop share, busy.
Yeah.
Have you stopped sharing?
Okay, stop everything.
Okay, good. Okay, so before we proceed to the next section of the talk, yeah, I think for those who are new, forgotten to introduce ourselves. Actually, both of us have started this platform, Astrology and Global Trends, since year 2022. And we have deployed two methods, Chinese astrology and trend research, to forecast on the global trends research. So our forecast is aligned to the planetary energy fields and trend research. And we have already, just now, as you say, we have already proven of more than 80% accuracy to help our members to make profitable investment decision, because we know that investment is very much related to global trends itself. And we have already written, we have written one book on Unlock Your Wealth Potential, which I have already put the link for the free chapter download. And also at the same time, we have already written 4 annual forecast book. This is 2026 annual forecast book is also available. I already put the link of free sample chapter for your preview. If you are interested to get the book, I also put in the link where you can get the book. This is only soft copy, no hard copy. This you can get it hard copy. Okay, yeah. So before we close, y'all stay until the end. I have free gift for y'all. Feng Shui tips for second half or the June 2026. Okay, the key sectors to enhance in June, and also simple adjustment in wealth, for wealth and clarity. And then I have the Heavenly Pardon Day for this year in July. What are the dates and the powerful manifestation date for you all as well? Okay, coming shortly. So before that, I would like to introduce you guys to a period 9 course. What we have seen here tonight, both BC and presented is only on the surface. So everything experienced tonight, the year energy, the money transitions, the hexagram readings, the industry mapping is a framework that we will teach systematically in the period 9 course, where we will do a parts monthly analysis and also the itching analysis on the global trends, the hexagram applications, okay, and also industry, geopolitical mapping, and personal positioning strategy. And this is the module that we will teach. This is a 2-day course, expected to be on 4th and 5th of July, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So day one will be focused more on Chinese astrology, where I will put in the framework of the clock of civilizations using the I Ching framework, okay, the I Ching framework on the world order, okay, and Module 2 is about period 9 civilizations. Actually, this is the third year we taught the course, and this year I've already revamped most of the module as well. It will be changed, and we will look into the changes in the next 5 years on the macro trends that we expect. And then module 3 on the crimson horse. Right now we are in the crimson horse and red ship calamity. So we are looking into the historical perils and what to expect also in these 2 years. Because these 2 years are the fire years where the transformation happened the most. And module 4, we will look into your own personal wealth code for period now, how you can align yourself in terms of parts. I will teach you how to read a parts, whether it's aligned to period 9 and what are the things that you can, do. Some of the feng shui and then qigong for personal agency to tap on the period 9 energy, okay, to enhance your energy. So on day 2, it will be PC's it will PC's module. PC, can you explain the module a bit?
Yeah. So module 5, we go on a brief of economy, finance, and geopolitics and the direction that they are heading. Just now, I share is only just the gist, but module 5, you see more hard evidence via charts and also historical trends. Okay. So we will focus on sectors that will be uh, provide opportunity for uh, investors, okay, to look into the sectors that will thrive in the coming few years. So we will look at commodity sector, industrial sector, financial sector, medical and healthcare sector, retail and F&B sector, AI chips and data centers. But all the companies that we discuss will have their own international analysts rated. Okay, which means we'll share what's the price target for analysts uh, in their respective sectors. Okay, and how these companies are seen by analysts in terms of price target, and then we do our own diagnosis. Okay, in terms of using specific KPIs to measure these companies against each other, so that you have a better picture of the companies that analysts talk about, but we add in our own analysis so that you have a better picture and decide for yourself. Last, we will conclude with a risk and hedging against risk.
Yeah, means that in here we will disclose what the company that is studied. By the way, PC is actually investment guru. He has appeared in several talks in Bursa, in KC Lau's platform. Okay, they are the founder of what's the Met investment strategy as well. Okay,
Yeah.
and he has already a proven track records of over more than 10 years in this area. Okay. So who's this course is for? Is for our monthly forecast followers that you have joined our monthly talk. So you want to go deeper beyond the monthly updates. The decision maker, if you are making significant business decisions, career or investment decisions for next 2-3 years, and want a macro framework beyond the conventional analysis. Because this is a combination of Chinese metaphysics and trend research. Unlike most of the investment guru where they only do trend research, we combine it with Chinese astrology, so it will be very very much more risk reduced and much more accurate, okay, in terms of giving you the ideas on how you are going to a direction for you to invest. Okay, so it's also for those seeker of the map. You sense the world is fundamentally shifting. You want more, more news, more than news headlines, then this is where you should be. Okay, you want a structured lens to understand where things are going and why. Okay, so if you are in this group, I think this course is built for you. Okay, so the wind has risen. So the great birds, peng birds, has already saw 90,000 li in the wind. This is a Chinese saying. But first, you must recognize that the wind has risen. So this period course is 2 days mastery course conducted via Zoom. You can attend anywhere. We will include the recording, the course materials, and also we will include the previous year's recording as well. Where you will have some fundamentals. So the early bird pricing is 687, member discounts. If you are astrology and global trends member is 587. For those repeated student, I will send to you a special rate separately. I will DM you separately. So this is the registration link if you are interested. Okay, and what you will get is that the course itself, the period 9 course for 2 days, then the free we will give you a free astrology and global trends comprehensive membership, which is worth 249. Okay, if at 687, and free how to pick quality stock, and also free recording of 2025 period 9 course. Okay, this is a video free on how to pick, because normally those who want to invest in stock market, they do not know how to invest, and our stock market is not only focused on Malaysian market, we focus on more international markets where you will gain better leverage. Okay, some of our members have made like 200 to 300 percent profits for some of the stock companies that we have shared as well. So all these are at 687. Okay, so I think if not, then you will join us as yeah, anyway, this course has already include the membership. Okay, so the membership actually is worth 179, so it's really very worth it in terms of this one. So yeah, I will give you all about 3 minutes. I think BC has sent, have already shared the link. Okay, to consider on this course itself. Yeah. So next is that we will go to the last section of this talk here. So we'll talk about first of all in the month of June to July. These if you want to do house renovation, better be careful. These are all no touch sectors of the house. South, and also from northeast 1 to northwest 3. Where the stars, in fact, northwest itself, where the star are quite negative. There are flying stars of 5 and 2 that exist here. So that means if you want to do any renovation at this sector, stop it. But however, if you cannot stop, then you have to do it, means you have to do it, or you have something urgent. At least if you can wait, like do some date selection, you can always consult me for this case. Okay, and then as promised, I give you some feng shui tips for the month, especially in the June itself. Okay, so here 11th of June, you can actually activate now at 3:38 p.m. You can activate your center part of your house. Very simple. There are good stars. You can warm up with a warm light in the center of the house. You can keep it on actually for the month, the whole month of June until 3rd of July if you want to, for that warm light. Okay, at the center of your house. Okay, and then 15th of June, at the northwest, 7:38 a.m. Actually, we have a month of 5 yellow and year of two this one, so it's not a positive star. So you either put in a sword cure, a 6 coins, or a metal object at this time, because this is where the earth energy is weakened. Okay, I have calculated the time for you to put it, and the sword cure. If you want how to do a sword cure, you can refer to my YouTube channel. I think PC, you can drop all the links on the YouTube channel link, that you know how to do the sword cure. I have an instruction for you. Okay, what is the meaning of sword cure? And this is also the power manifestation date for the 10th of June. This is very special date now. It's actually 3 victory palace for achievement manifestation. So you back south and you do your manifestation. So these are the power dates for the month of June that you can tap in this energy. Okay, so yeah. Any questions so far? Yeah, you can join my Telegram channel. I shall post some of these power manifestation and then the feng shui tips also in the Telegram channel if you are interested.
So I think we can now have Q&A.
Yeah, we can now let's go to the Q&A. Any questions so far for tonight? Anyone? Stop sharing. Okay.
So if there's no
Any question
question,
related to the course itself? Okay, you join the period 9 course. I will tell you that how to see the Bitcoin trending in second half. We will have that as well. I will put that in. Because earlier this year we already also talked about that I asked most of the member to exit Bitcoin since last year, because I see that it's dropping this year. So we shall see what will happen this year. Okay, we can read the charts for Bitcoins. I think the trend is quite accurate. Okay, next question is for you, maybe PC.
yeah, the dollar is bullish right now against other currencies. But if we want to look at the dollar against gold, if we look back into the the dollar purchasing power, it has actually gone down by almost 99% against gold since I think since 1920s or 1930s. So that means that over the long term, the dollar will keep diminishing in value because of unsustainable debt. So right now, whatever that is happening in gold and silver is because, as I mentioned just now, everyone is panicking on how to secure their oil imports. Okay, and that means selling profitable investment. Or for example, in terms of silver, the silver price is down because of not because of supply drop. I mean, not because of demand drop. In fact, China is building up its wind power application of new energy vehicles and solar power at a feverish pace. So that means demand of silver is there. But normally, when is strengthening, there's also a group of sellers called bullion banks that take advantage of the strength in the dollar to suppress the price of gold. So price of gold and silver is often manipulated by the bullion banks. And because they have a net short position, for example, bullion banks are sitting in a net short position of gold with loss amounting to current price here of about close to about $78 billion. In terms of silver, they are in net short position with net loss in their paper position by around almost $8 billion. So that is why it is in their interest to short both gold and silver to cause a cascading waterfall event for them to cover back their losses at a much lower price. So that is why gold and silver behave in that manner, because it is being suppressed to keep alive the dollar. Okay. But we all know that the dollar, like any other currency, that is a reserve currency or hegemon currency. Over the last few centuries, they eventually will fall down from grace. Okay, like the British pound during the Victoria period, where the British Empire rules almost three-quarter of the world. Then before that, you have the Dutch currency, the Spanish currency. All empire currencies would actually lose their
Be reset.
hegemony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, that's right. And then we will talk about the opportunity of gold and silver in the period 9 course as well. What are the opportunities there?
Yeah, we
Okay,
also
I'm
share with
very
those companies that are in investors' radar. What are the best performing uh, gold mining or silver mining
yeah,
companies? Yeah.
companies. Because a lot of people ask us how to invest in gold and silver. So we will put that in as well. Not only you do not need to buy physical, but you need to spot the companies. Okay. And we will okay, Si Heng asked stock market is predicted to crash on this October. Okay. I couldn't answer that questions whether it will crash or not, but we have a detailed study in the period 9 course on the stock market, how it will perform. And also we will tell you, yeah, what are the potential of each of the stock market, either in US market, in China market, in Singapore market, or in other regions market as well. Okay. There will be a detailed studies that that you are able to make a very good investment decision. um Okay, the period 9 course is actually the okay, the offer is actually valid for this week. The course itself, the price is not a lifetime it's not a lifetime access. It's a 3 month access. I think 3 to 6 months access, because because as the year goes, the thing also is not useful anymore, because it's based on the current news or current global trends that we make this course to predict the future. But we cannot predict very far in the future, because it will depends on the dynamics of currently what is happening.
So
Therefore
therefore, it cannot be a lifetime.
yeah, it cannot be a lifetime access.
Yeah. But one thing that I do understand is that because of the risk in the period 9 course, I've also shared what are the dividend stock that you can consider. And some of the dividend stocks are actually paying more than 10%, okay, in terms of dividend yields. So this could be a time when you can actually go for protection by enjoying dividends in certain industries that is less vulnerable, okay, compared to those that are growth driven, where they are more vulnerable.
Mm. We also share with you what are the opportunity, industries that you can invest in. It will be a surprise for most of the people, because most of the people goes into AI and all these things. There are even some other industries which very, very much period 9 compliance in this period 9 course. Okay, Stephen Fu's question. Okay, this will be answered in the period 9 course, that potentially which market will have a higher upside in the next 12 months. Okay. Yeah. Um, where will there be this one I cannot answer you. This is more of politics side on general election in Malaysia this year. So PC, what do you think?
I I think Malaysia government will be when they feel that it's safe to do so. Because right now, I think the government is quite concerned they are more concerned about what's happening in the economy, especially with the oil crisis, and therefore I think they want everything um to be to lessen the impact on the common people before they decide an election. So that is why I think it will be a very tough call, but priority will be stabilizing first.
Okay.
Yes, the course will be in English.
Yeah, we are both English speaker. PC and I. Okay. So any other questions? I think if not, I think let's call it a night. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you will, you have all the power dates. You will be able to manifest accordingly. You just join my Telegram channel. I will share the power dates with you as well. And remember, if you join my Telegram channel, I will tell you. I will also put in the Telegram channel that the direction and the timing to manifest on the July 16th power dates on Heavenly Power Day, because that day is very powerful for you to make wishes. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it from us. Good night, everyone. Have a good second half of the year. I think that wisdom, and also stay where you are. Take care of your health is very important. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us tonight. Okay.
So thank you all who have logged in, and thanks Evelyn for hosting.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yeah. Thanks, BC. Okay. Bye bye.